This is going to be like why Stimulus is good, and it's a step in the right direction for getting our JavaScript sprinkles cleaner. And yeah, this is about JavaScript sprinkles. So we're doing server-side rendering, and we are then adding behavior to our HTML where it's needed. And so Stimulus starts with this idea that we're going to put more information in the HTML itself. It's going to be more declarative in the HTML itself, like the JavaScript behaviors, state, and actions. Like, let's just look at something that one of my recent projects, somewhat recent, like we'll just call it like a mid, like this decade, 2015-ish, like okay way of doing JavaScript sprinkles. And how it looks is something like this. This is CoffeeScript too, so I apologize. But I like CoffeeScript. It was good. It was another right step in the direction, and now we have ES6. So what you would have is like a big listeners page, event listeners page. And like it was kind of a de facto standard a little bit, or some sort of convention that you might call in your HTML data behavior. So you would set a data behavior like that in your HTML, and then you call it something like this, show errors. And then you set up this listener, so when you click on that, you go back to more code, which will be like a series of behavior. It could be very complex, like some of these, or not. But this is pretty good because it's pretty readable. You can go, since I'm using data behavior, you know there's a JavaScript behavior behind this. You're going to go to this listeners page, probably have this open, and you're going to go see where it goes to, app send to. So that would be in my JavaScript directory, and then, okay. And at least it's pretty clean. Like each one of these, I just tried to have one line that it went back to. And this is not too bad. Now there's a little bit of stuff you need to know about turbo links. For these behaviors, they need to be listened to in this fashion. But this is jQuery, if you don't know. Or they won't work properly. So you need to know a little bit too about if you're using turbo links. But anyway, let's just call this like okay, somewhat modern way of sprinkling. Now it has problems though. One is there's no great pattern for this. Like somebody may be using data behavior. You might be using JS something like data.js. So there's no enforced opinion here. You're just kind of like doing your stuff, and then you got to go search this file, and this file can get very large. This one's not too bad at 62 lines, but this just gets huge. I mean, you can go into many hundreds of lines. Then there's no opinion here either. Everybody's just kind of making up stuff. I mean, at least you're making a class, in this case a CoffeeScript class, and your namespacing. And so again, this is like okay to do this, but it's still not a pattern or anything like real opinionated that the team is going to be doing. And plus there's not a lot of information in let's just take this example on Stimulus. We know there's a click going on. Like if you're just using data behavior, was it on change? Is it on blur? Is it click? What is it? Also, this target means something. Okay, this means something like to this whole thing. All right. And this target means something. And then we have this controller. So it's more declarative. It also assumes you're always going to go back to a larger JS file, which is not, it's going to have a modern, with ES6, we're going to have a modern class inheritance that were familiar in other programming languages, not like the prototype inheritance. CoffeeScript was nice too because it went back to a very, very orthodox way of understanding class-based programming, or however we want to frame that. But let's just take a look at quickly. Where am I going here? So here's something I did in Stimulus. Okay, let's just look at some of the code. And okay, here it is. Okay, so this would be the main div that's wrapping up everything. Ignore this stuff. This is actually Alpine.js, which I'm going to do in another video. That's another declarative way to put behaviors in right in the HTML. You can see here in the data controller, it's got this double dash, and I really like that because what it does is Stimulus knows that it's going to be in the dropdowns directory called the simple controller.js, like over here. Now, I should say too, like this is meant to be an overview of why Stimulus is good. I'm using Webpacker. It's using Stimulus auto loading. Just read about that if you don't understand that right now. But it's auto loading these controllers, so it knows that this is going to be in dropdowns directory simple controller. Okay, so here's the directory that all the controllers are in, is app JavaScript controllers. I'm in a Rails app right now, and I like that because I can start making these new folders, these little buckets. I think that's one of the keys to writing better front-end code, is just getting these little compartments for it. That makes sense. I anticipate I'll probably have different kinds of dropdowns. That's why I already made a dropdowns directory and controller, like to be like maybe a mega dropdown, or more complex dropdowns, or dropdowns that work with like autocomplete and type ahead. So that's great. So we have opinions now. Like we know where that code is. Like in the other method, we didn't know where this was. This is just, you got to go and check. And as a developer, you got to guess. Again, here, it's not like that. Okay, it's got a pattern that you follow, and everybody's going to know what's going on here. All the developers, rather. I'm using Stimulus 2.0. It's going to be Stimulus 2.0. That'll be another video. It doesn't matter, but this has a new concept of setting a data, which state is being set right here in the HTML. You can see here on line 5 that it's just setting this invisible value. It's got some magic too, like the invisible value gets camel cased. That's how you refer to it in all the methods. Same thing with a target. Let's take a look at a target. Here's actually the drop-down menu that you see that opens. That gets converted to menu target, so we can refer to it and do the hiding and showing. So yeah, it's like we can understand what's going on, where we have this common set of declarative stuff. We're not going back to a separate file. It's kind of like the old on-click days, when you put stuff right on the HTML elements. I mean, and that was nice in a way. Like it got messy and there wasn't patterns to it, but it was right there. You knew it was on click. You knew it was on change. It was performant. And I think we're just like back to an era now where developers, we want to go faster. Like there was that era where you wanted all your HTML like super small, and it was just very little stuff, and you went back to your style sheets and all the information was there, and then JavaScript was all buried somewhere else too. And it's like now we're going back, like we don't care about that kind of, some of that was optimization for the HTML, but in 2020 it's like we're gzipping everything, the front ends, caching, varnish, web servers. We can just deliver HTML itself, even if it's kind of bloated, very quickly. So we're kind of going back to like, let's get more stuff for the developers. Let's get more stuff in classes, like using the utility classes like Tailwind, and then using also in the JavaScript world, in the behavior world, is getting that stuff back easily into the view, but not going too crazy. Like I think Alpine goes a little too crazy, but I'm going to do another video about that. I think it does a little too much there and doesn't have enough opinions. That's good. So yeah, that's my opinion, why Stimulus is good and why, of course, you should think about it. So thanks for watching this video. Have a good day.